Countries and cultures around the world are bridged by globalization and technology. The economies of the world are connected by a web of interdependency and trade. In the past few centuries, the oceans have been of enormous importance, and after World War II, many Asian countries gained independence and began to play major roles in world economy.
Hello, I'm Xinqiao.
And I'm Quinyan, and we are here to discuss conflicts over a particularly crucial location, the South China Sea.
As nations begin to build military bases and extract natural resources, tensions rise between the feuding nations. Will this turn into an all-out war?
The South China Sea is a body of water that borders almost every country in Southeast Asia and contains many islands, reefs, shoals, and sandbanks. In recent years, China and surrounding countries clash over rights and sovereignty of these territories. The United States is suspicious of China's intentions and wish to preserve their interests in Southeast Asia, which has had relatively good relations with the West.
Disputes arose in the South China Sea after World War II, when China, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Vietnam scrambled to occupy the islands there. Then, in the 1990s, access to the sea's oil and gas reserves as well as fishing and ocean resources began to complicate the claims. Since 2010, the region has become a major focal point for competition between China and the United States. Such competition has existed since the years of the Cold War, when the United States funded the national governments of all Eastern Asian countries, while the Soviet Union supported communist overthrowers. When the Kuomintang fled, China cracked down on its citizens and began to industrialize. Later, there was much resentment from surrounding nations as China expanded its influence, especially since many Southeast Asian countries receive economic support from the United States.
Although the United States refuses to take a definite side, they do encourage negotiations without coercion, intimidation, threats, or the use of force to settle territorial disputes. They only recognize exclusive economic zones of countries as legal. An exclusive economic zone is the ocean territory stretching up to 320 kilometers from the coast, which can be used for resource extraction, such as oil and natural gas. Water territory is derived from land, and all must follow international law, which does not recognize water space beyond a continental shelf or an exclusive economic zone. Airspace is international, and all nations should be allowed overflight in exclusive economic zones.
This body of water is extremely important for economic reasons. Over $5.3 trillion worth of goods pass through the South China Sea, including oil from the Middle East. About 2/3 of South Korea's energy supplies, 60% of Japan and Taiwan's energy supplies, and 30% of China's crude oil imports come through the South China Sea. The stretch of ocean is so important for the transportation of oil that some Chinese observers have called the South China Sea the second Persian Gulf.
Both Taiwan and mainland China claim sovereignty over 90% of the South China Sea, which goes back to records from the Xia and Han dynasties. The border, called the Nine-Dash Line, hugs the coast of almost all surrounding nations. Additionally, China has been constructing artificial islands with airstrips and helipads as part of its method of incrementally increasing its power over a region. Many sources have stated that each action has long-distance foresight, but is small enough not to provoke immediate military repercussion.
Disputed territory includes the Paracel Islands, claimed by China and Vietnam and occupied by China, the Spratly Islands, claimed entirely by Vietnam, China, and Taiwan, and claimed partially by the Philippines, Malaysia, and Brunei. All of the above countries have military bases in these islands except Brunei. The Scarborough Shoal, claimed by China, Taiwan, and the Philippines, and occupied by China.
The South China Sea has always been disputed, and recent tensions have picked up due to fishing vessels, oil exploration vessels, and oil rigs, Coast Guard ships, naval ships, and military aircraft. Recently, there was an incident involving a U.S. spy plane and the Chinese Navy, which reportedly warned the plane to leave the area 8 times.
Foreign military aircraft. This is Chinese Navy. You are approaching our our military alert zone. Please immediately
High above the South China Sea, the radio crackles with a stern warning.
go.
The source of dispute appears on the horizon seemingly out of nowhere. Islands, man-made by China, hundreds of miles from its coastline.
So when's the last time you went up?
CNN got exclusive access to classified U.S. surveillance flights over the islands.
80 knots.
Check.
The first time journalists have been allowed on an operational mission by the state-of-the-art P-8A Poseidon, America's most advanced surveillance and sub-hunting aircraft.
So we've just arrived on station now above the 3 islands that are the targets of today's mission. It's these 3 islands that have been the focus of China's building in the South China Sea over recent years.
China's alarming creation of entirely new territory in the South China Sea is one part of a broader military push that some fear is to challenge U.S. dominance in the region, sailing its first aircraft carrier, equipping its nuclear missiles with multiple warheads, developing missiles to destroy U.S. aircraft carriers, and now building military bases far from its shores. For the U.S., the islands are a step too far, and this flight is part of a new and bold American military response that may soon include sailing U.S. warships close by as well. In just 2 years, China has expanded these islands by 2,000 acres, the equivalent of 1,500 football fields and counting, an engineering marvel in waters as deep as 300 feet.
You're a military man. You look at this, is there any doubt that that is a future military installation?
It appears to be a buildup of military infrastructure, and not to mention we were just challenged probably 30 minutes ago, and the challenge came from Chinese Navy, and I'm highly confident it came from ashore on this facility here.
What used to be the Fiery Cross Reef now has early warning radar, an airport tower, and a runway long enough to handle every aircraft in the Chinese military. Some are calling it China's unsinkable aircraft carrier. These videos of the islands, taken from the P-8's advanced surveillance cameras, never before declassified. In a sign of just how valuable China views them, the new islands are already well protected.
There's obviously a lot of surface traffic down there, Chinese warships and Chinese Coast Guard ships.
We heard the proof. The Chinese Navy ordering the P-8 out of the airspace not once, not twice, but 8 times on this mission.
This is the Chinese Navy. This is the Chinese Navy. Please go away quickly.
And like the surveillance videos, the audio of these warnings never before shared with the public.
You heard over the intercom, Chinese Navy, this is the Chinese Navy. And what was interesting is that there were also civilian aircraft. There was a Delta flight on that same frequency that when it heard that challenge, it piped into the frequency to say, what's going on? The Chinese Navy then reassuring them, but as the flight crew tells me, that can be a very nerve-wracking experience for civilian aircraft in the area.
And the more China builds, we're told, the more frequently and aggressively it warns away U.S. aircraft.
This is a dredger actually pumping sand from under the water on top of an area they're trying to build up land. And we see this every day. So I think they work weekends when they're doing this because
24/7.
It happens. We see it all the time.
The United States are very suspicious, but to the average Chinese citizen, this territory has always been theirs. Let's take a look at the views of my grandfather, a history major. 喂，爷爷。
你好。
你好。准备好了吗？
准备好了。
好，谢谢。嘿，所以开始了。
不是你想问我什么呀？
我就想知道您的看法啊，对这个问题。
我的看法是这样，这件事情啊，首先应该弄清楚，南海是中国的领海，因为历史上这个南海啊，就是中国的这个海，这个就是国土吧。从汉朝以后，最早就是汉朝以前，这个中国的这个人呢，就在那个地方打鱼啊活动。从汉朝以后，就逐渐的，最早发现这个岛屿，后来给这个岛屿命名， 这一切都是中国在那儿，而且呢，在国际上来讲啊，有条约规定的，它是属于中国的领海，中国的海域。问题发生在20世纪70年代以前，根本就没有什么争论。南海周边的国家呀，没有提出这个问题来，是70年代以后这个问题才开始闹起来的。这个为什么闹起来呢？其中一个原因就是在南海这个地方发现了大量的油气田，就是有丰富的资源。再有一个原因呢，就是海洋公约，我看那个全名叫这个是1982年有个联合国海洋法公约。这个海洋法公约它有一个规定，就是这个国家的海边上有200海里是专属经济区和这个大陆管辖权。最早的时候没有这些，我就说70年代以前没有任何国家说过这个事情。最有矛盾的，中国历来主张和平谈判、和平解决。这个中国政府的态度是，主权归我，共同开发。那么有争议，中国主张就是和平谈判，咱们谈是吧？我们也照顾你的利益，可以共同开发嘛？共同开发就是照顾那些个像菲律宾呐、越南呐那些个小的国家的利益。美国又提出什么就是那个航线的安全的等等，还有说中国在一个岛礁上扩大呀等等。那么你首先规定你这个东西是谁的，然后你才能说。那么中国政府就说我在我自己领海内的岛礁进行扩建，那是我自己的事情，跟你没关系。
那你就觉得别的国家有权在这个地方钻井、开采石油和钓鱼吗？
那不应该呀，应该中国说是共同开发，你单方面的跑我这个海域里来开发来，这个不行啊。就所划定的这个海域，这是中国的海域。
那个九段线里头不是有很多的海岛吗？你觉得那些海岛也都是归中国的吗？
应该是啊。
我再问2个问题就差不多了。你认为美国有权在这些领域上空飞行吗？
这个问题就还是回到我最早跟你们说的，南海这个区域是谁的？前提因为南海是中国的，这个前提下他做的行动，那就得考虑了。你如果飞到人家海域里边去，你不跟人家打招呼，那当然是不对的。要这个南海问题一个关键，就南海是谁的？对，南海是中国的，这有历史依据的。有法律有法律条文规定的，九段线以里是中国的，九段线以外是他们的。至于说有交叉的地方，那可以谈嘛。
还有最后一个问题，如果这个问题不解决，您认为有发生战争的危险吗？
有擦枪走火的可能。都在努力减少这个问题的发生。
那就完事儿了，多谢爷爷。Since China believes that the islands are all historically theirs, construction projects on them are no different than building infrastructure in the mainland. With such strong protests from the United States, the South China Sea dispute has the potential to turn into another Cold War, centered around competition between China and the United States. But a Cold War between China and the United States will be very different than one between the Soviet Union and the United States. Unlike the Soviet Union, China has prosperous global markets and invests massive amount of capital abroad. In other words, it has massive amounts of economic power. Conflicts between economically powerful countries such as China and the United States will have enormous physical implications as well as terror and paranoia, since they can influence the amount of capital flowing in and out of affiliated countries. Regionally, the most recent disputes are mostly about the Spratly Islands, a series of isles and reefs that cover about 160,000 square miles. Since the 18th century, it has been called dangerous grounds by navigators, not only because of the risk of being shipwrecked, but also the territorial disputes between Southeastern Asian countries. 5 different countries all have overlapping claims of this region.
The Scarborough Shoal was taken by China in 2012 and protected by water cannons, preventing reclamation efforts by the Philippines. Southeast Asian nations are very antagonistic towards Chinese development in the South China Sea. Recently, a group of over 100 people from a Filipino nationalist group protested China's aggressive claims. They gathered outside of the Chinese consulate in the Philippines' capital, Manila, holding up signs that said, "South China Sea does not belong to China," and "Asians Unite, Save PHC." Just a few days prior, the Philippines President Benigno Aquino likened China's expansion to the early days of Nazi Germany's expansion in Europe. In his exact words, "If the United States says we are not interested, perhaps there is no break to ambitions of other countries." The commentators on television documentaries were saying, what if somebody said stop to Hitler at that time, or Germany at that time? Could we have avoided World War II? So, I say again, America's rebalancing sends a definite signal that we are all supposed to be living under norms that we agreed upon.
Near the Paracel Islands, there are massive reserves of oil, and China has been exploring. However, because of this, Vietnam was provoked and invited United States defense contractors for a meeting at the capital. In this meeting between the United States and the ASEAN in Hanoi, Vietnam, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton declared the freedom of the South China Sea as a national interest, and legitimate claims to maritime space in the South China Sea should be derived solely from legitimate claims to land features. This roughly translates into, China's claims are illegitimate and they should not be the sole owners of the most important trading route in Asia.
One potential solution is the South China Sea Peace Initiative, which has been proposed by President of Taiwan, Ma Ying-jeou. It calls for feeding countries to temporarily put away their claims in order to negotiate on the topic of sharing their resources. Navigation and overflight must be respected, meaning that the seas are open to all vessels and the skies above the claimed territory are still open to aircraft. This plan is similar to the proposal put forth to the East China Sea in 2012, which allowed Taiwan and Japan to jointly fish in a disputed zone.
But most countries will not respect Taiwan's peacekeeping efforts. Taiwan is not respected because it has relatively small political and economic influence in the region. China sees it as a renegade state, and it is geographically very small as well. In addition, the peace plan is slightly hypocritical since Taiwan has the exact same claim over maritime space as China, which is at the 9-dash line.
Another solution, the Maritime Silk Road, is proposed by China to establish better relations with other nations in the South China Sea, so the situation is less likely to explode into war. It involves building structures along the South China Sea that help connect it to trade in the Indian Ocean. In addition to pacifying resistant countries, the Maritime Silk Road is also designed to cement relationships with countries that are tacitly friendly to China, such as Malaysia, Cambodia, Sri Lanka, and Pakistan. This will be accomplished primarily through economic incentives like infrastructure development and trade deals.
However, this plan is unlikely to succeed because it is designed so China will benefit the most of all countries involved. The infrastructural improvements include artificial islands with oil rigs and airstrips. Other nations in the South China Sea will reject the plan because it is not a compromise.
The third and most reasonable solution for ASEAN nations is to have negotiations among themselves and work out their own territorial disputes before facing China. Vietnam, the Philippines, Brunei, and Malaysia all have conflicting claims over territory in the South China Sea, and only through uniting can they convince China to listen. So far, China has only participated in bilateral talks, meaning it will only discuss issues with one other country at a time. This is enormously beneficial to China because surrounding nations with smaller economies are easily pressured by China's vast economic power. This is what causes the nations to seek the United States' aid, giving the United States a major role in the conflict.
However, if the ASEAN nations unite, they would stand a greater chance of getting China to accept decisions, and they would have enough collective powers that the United States would not be relevant in the issue. This issue would be resolved domestically, and the island nations of Southeast Asia will not become the casualties of two superpowers vying for influence.